You all right?
Yeah, fine.
You sure?
When it comes to getting just the right size on these, you may or may not know that not everybody takes the same size, and that's a little clue as to how many different size ear canals we have. Lots of different sizes, okay? So we'll get them nice and neat, but it usually takes 2 or 3 goes to get the right size.
Okay.
I'm going to switch them on.
They look very discreet.
That's the part I like about it.
What I'm going to do, just generally now, is I'm going to turn it louder overall. One of the things that we might need to think about is, because you've been used to having the ear molds in your ears, that changes the acoustic properties of your ear, which is designed to collect and amplify sounds in the high frequencies. And when we put ear molds in, it changes that, and it keeps a lot more of the low frequency sounds in your ears. And that's not usually ideal, but because hearing aids weren't very good at getting rid of feedback before, we've always had to do it until the last 3 or 4 years. And you've spent your whole life getting used to that way of hearing, so perhaps sometimes having a little bit too much low frequency that would be ideal, but because of the trade-off that they're not whistling. So it might be that it just feels a little bit quieter because you're not getting that extra low frequency sound. But I don't want to say, but I'm not being fascist about it and saying that's what you've got to live with. I'm just saying that could be one of the reasons. So what I'm going to do is turn everything louder now, and let's see if that makes a difference.
Okay. We're in quite a quiet kind of environment right now. Trying to think realistically, as far as in, you know, a coffee shop or something, whether I would benefit from it being. But then it's like the localization as well, because if everything's louder, then that's not
that doesn't help either, does it? It's picking out, it's having it picked out the right sounds. I think what I know enough about this technology is if we can get it right in an environment like this, and we get the default set up, the automatic functionality on the hearing aids is pretty good. And bear in mind that once we get your app, once we've woken China, got them to sort out our Wi-Fi here, and we can get you working with the app, you'll have that extra flexibility. So you'll be able to zoom the hearing aids a little bit. If you're in a complicated listening environment, you'll be able to send both the microphones to the front in a narrow beam, or widen out, so you'll have much more flexibility. And you'll be able to save how the hearing aid does things in certain situations. So because of the you know, how the geo-tagging on it, it knows when you're in that place again, you can add that location, and it'll say last time you were in this wine bar. Not that you ever go to wine bars, Molly, obviously.
Wow.
Would you like to go back to those settings? So it's not expecting you to remember all of that information. It's going to try and prompt you with a few things like that too.
So it has sort of memory type thing on it, right?
It does. It's based on the GPS, the location. So it'll find your hearing aids if you lose them, or it'll remember the last place you had them switched on. And then if you tweak
that's
the
very
settings
useful
yourself,
for her because she can't see properly. That's very useful.
Yes.
Very useful.
Especially now that that's small.
Yeah, absolutely.
I use it when we're at exhibitions to say, where have I put them down? Oh, they're over there. But you know, as I said to you, as I did say, they are hearing aids first and foremost, and you've worn hearing aids for a long time. Children, when you were little, were probably over-amplified a little bit at times, so we were getting too much of those low frequencies that we talked about. But you spent a lot of time getting used to some of that sound. So it's just, from my point of view, my task is to get the sounds, you know, so you get as much audibility through the hearing aids as possible. And then we can start to work on all the extra clever whistles and bells that this technology can do. As they are at the moment, would you be happy to wear them, or would you be putting your old ones back in?
Yeah, I think I'd be okay wearing these.
Are you concerned about the sensation of them in your ears?
What do you mean by sensation?
The tickly, are they
surprisingly, they don't feel that ticklish anymore. It's kind of, I think, more when you're putting them in.
Yes.
But this side is starting to whistle a bit. I don't know whether that's because I've done something, but sometimes it's slightly whistling. It's just me.
It's not you.
They probably wiggle around when you speak, do they? Because they're in the ear canal.
I wonder if we all just say nothing for a moment or two and just see if you're picking up on that whistle or beep that we're hearing.
Is that beeping?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's why
I suspected that's what it would be. And what I'm quite pleased about there is the fact that you said specifically it's on that side.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's one of the
it
nice
feels-
things about this technology. It helps you to pick out pretty well where sounds are coming from. That's what we've been hearing that you couldn't hear so well before.
No, that's
And
really
now
good.
Heather's adjusted the physical fit, and that's allowed us to play with the digital settings a little bit more. And then all of a sudden you are picking up on that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it's annoying you as much as it's
Yeah, it certainly is annoying because it's so, I think, where I'm kind of trying to tune into different frequencies, that's a really high one, and it's like kind of, that's why I thought it was my own ear whistling, because it was that kind of close, and sort of like, oh, please stop.
Please stop that.
That would seem to suggest that it's giving you that little bit more sensitivity to those types of sounds that we take for granted.
Yeah.
That you've not been hearing so well for, well, who knows how long now.
Mm.
And you seem to be picking up on that immediately. And especially being able to tell exactly which side it was coming from, I think that's useful.
The idea behind this technology is that hearing aids are really bad at helping you to localise. As you, really teaching you something here. And it's one of the downsides of hearing aids because where sounds are coming from can give us really important clues, especially when you're struggling with your sight as you are as well.
Yeah.
It's helpful to have that extra dimension. So what these hearing aids are trying to do is correct for that, so correct for some of the limitations of the hearing aids themselves.
Sure.
Where the microphones are, that stops you localising very well. Blocking the ears up stops you localising very well, because the natural shape of the ear is designed to help us tell where sounds are coming from. And naturally our brain will make a calculation that if you're hearing it at that level on this side and at that different level on this side, the sound must be there or there. And the brain's doing all of that stuff all of the time. The trouble with hearing aids is, especially with the digital ones, is that they make the quieter sounds even louder.
Yeah.
So it's taking away all that, well, it's that loud on this side and only this loud on that side, because it's correcting for that, thinking that you want to hear all those things. So we're adding that back in so that where people are in space should become much more obvious to you. That's the theory. And as I said to you at the very beginning of this session, your experience of hearing loss will be unique to you. You've had it since you were very little, so you've habituated to hearing aids over time.
Yeah.
So that's part of the challenge. How much of this extra functionality in the hearing aids you will want to tap into?
But being deaf-blind, the fact that she can localise even if she can't see it, she knows which direction either help is, or if she needs to get to sound, she knows, or get away from sound. Obviously Eunice can only do so much, but she needs her ears now to help her see. Whereas the other way around, when you're just deaf, you use your eyes to hear. So it's really good technology to be able to know where sound's coming from, particularly danger.
Yeah, exactly. And these are some of the things that we're hopeful for with this technology, Molly. But I'm trying desperately not to give you too much expectation. I would love you to come back next time and say, gosh, Heather, I wish you told me it was going to be this fabulous there. Then we promise you'll do everything.
Yeah.
And you'd be disappointed in some element of the technology. So, as I said to you right at the beginning, the theory behind the technology is really clever. The algorithms and the calculations it's making are phenomenal. They're going to try and help you to know where sounds are in space, how far away they are from you, near to you and whereabouts in terms of orientation they are.
Yeah.
That's the theory. How much of that, you know, is relevant to you, and that's not, you know, that to every individual is different.
Yeah.
And because you've had a hearing loss for so long, and your brain, your language development has come through amplified speech, it's a bigger change away for you.
Sure.
If somebody's acquired a hearing loss at 40, 44 my age, I'm used to telling where sounds are coming from, so I'd expect the hearing aids to add that in for me. It's a slightly different position to come from. But I'm hopeful that over time, as you adapt to the technology and you wear them in different situations, I'm hopeful that those are things that add benefit for you.
Sure.
Now, you've been wearing them a little while. Do you think we're there at a level, or would you like the volume up a little bit, down a little bit?
I think the volume's okay. I think.
Would you like me to try, just if you're anything like me, would you like me to try it up a little bit so you can say, no, go back?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Would you mind if just before you did that, would you mind if we just, what did we click then?
You have to tune in a lot more
okay.
to hear you.
Yeah, the male voice.
Yeah, because I can immediately tell, like, it's a lot easier listening to you than
Yeah.
to you.
Okay.
In the moment, I have to really sort of concentrate.
You sure that's not the accent?
It will be if you're a Liverpool fan.
Would you?
We're Everton fans.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
so
blew off. Yeah.
Yeah, we're okay then. We're cooking on gas.
This is purely as a little experiment, just for my own interest. I'm going to change a little feature that might make a subtle difference. You tend to find that in a relatively quiet environment like this, subtle changes like this are less noticeable.
Okay.
But the aid can automatically switch into this setting when the environment is right for it, you know. I'm just going to do it on purpose, just to see if you notice any change.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm staying roughly where I am now. I'm speaking at the same level. I'm trying very hard to speak at the same level as I was a moment ago.
Yeah.
Are you able to notice any difference there at all?
You
Does that sound a little bit?
sound clearer.
A little bit clearer?
Yeah.
Okay, well that's interesting. The other thing, if I just walk around the room and I'll just try to keep prattling away, so you have to bear with me, and I'm just looking to see how easily you can track or follow where my voice is coming from. So if I just continue walking and continue chatting away, are you still able to hear me quite clearly?
Yeah.
How easy do you think is it to tell whereabouts I'm talking from as I'm moving around? You seem to be following me with your eyes, which gave me a clue that you knew roughly where that voice was coming from.
Yeah.
So again, I'm just going to continue chatting away, and I might be moving a little bit closer or a little bit further away, but I'll deliberately keep my voice at the same level, just to see how easily you feel you can notice where my voice is coming from. Are you able to follow me around the room
Yeah.
quite easily?
Going around.
I mean, you pinpointed me there very clearly.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to continue chatting and walking around. Actually, there's going to be times when I wouldn't normally turn my back on a lady like this, but just for experimental purposes.
So smooth.
I'm talking.
You can retch, Molly, if you want to.
I'm looking away from you, and I'm moving around, and I'm still moving around the room at the same time. And sometimes I'm facing you, sometimes I'm looking away, and I'm just wondering, even though you've only had these on a few minutes, are you able to adjust to pretty much where I am in the room?
It's weird because I can tell you're moving around the room,
Yes.
but the level of what you are saying is still equally as clear. So
Excellent.
which I wouldn't get that with these.
And I
That's
hope
good.
your mum and Heather can back me up on this. I deliberately wasn't trying to talk louder the further away I got.
I would
But-
tell you if he was cheating.
but- So that's really nice. That happens to be one of the new features that have been introduced with this particular aid
Wow.
that Heather was referring to. It's not to make any promises. We want you to draw your own conclusions. And the aid will detect automatically when the right time is to subtly change into these various settings
Wow.
to try and help you pick up
Very
on speech as
impressive,
best as
isn't
you
it?
can
Yeah.
in different situations. But just for interest, I wanted to manually click that feature on and walk around
That's really good to do, isn't it?
and see how that sounded to you.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased to say I can see your eyes were following exactly where I was, and even when I moved right around, you pointed straight at me. Which I'm not saying that would be impossible for you to do in this environment with, you know, maybe your other aides, but I'm pleased that it was that accurate. And that easy to follow me.
Yeah.
The
So
interesting
that's not
thing,
conclusive, but it's a nice indicator, I would say.
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely.
the interesting thing when you say her eyes could follow you is with her previous aides, if I was speaking to her, how should we say this, in not good light, so it was either too bright or too dark, or it wasn't perfect lighting.
Pub lighting.
Yeah, say in a pub.
Yeah.
If I walked away from Molly speaking, as
Yeah.
soon as I turn my back or move from the position she knows I'm in, she can't hear me as well. And equally, I know it really upsets Molly, but she thinks she's looking at me, but she's not, because obviously she can't see properly.
Well,
And it's that information about where you are in space that hearing aids up until this very moment have been really bad at giving you the right information.
Yeah.
Because they're not being subtle enough, they've just tried to make everything loud enough to hear.
Yeah,
That's
and
enough.
obviously when you're deaf blind, you don't have spatial awareness,
Yeah.
which is a major problem, which is,
Yeah.
you know, walking into things, walking into people, you know, on top of all the hassles you have. If there is something to make it a bit easier.
well, that's precisely what this feature is designed to focus on, the importance of that spatial awareness.
Yeah.
But it is just one algorithm.
Of course.
Yeah. So it's brilliant, and it will be really interesting to get your observations on this, Molly, because bear in mind what I was saying to you before, if we think about applying this technology for younger children in the future who can't give us the right feedback, or who are coloured by the idea of it being an Apple product, you know, we really do need to understand.
Yeah, it won't be for everybody, will it? Let's face it, it won't be for
But I think
everybody.
the subtlety of this effect is a limitation of a lot of hearing aids that we've just never really acknowledged. People will say, I can hear them, but I've got no idea where it's coming from. Or one of the gentlemen who fitted this to said that with his old hearing aids, he could hear everything, but he felt it being packaged and put inside his head. You know, the sound was inside his head. He said, whereas when he tried these, he felt that the sound was around him.
Surround sound.
Yeah.
Back in the sound.
You're using all the words that ReSound, the cheesy words they use, but yeah, he felt that he was in the environment.
Right.
And that's a really powerful
It is.
experience. But as I say, that's not what everybody would experience.
I think one of the other striking things that he said, and again, you will please draw your own conclusions and find your own experiences, but one of the interesting things he said was, when it wasn't us, it was somebody else that fitted him, when he was walking around and then he stopped to speak, he could even tell when he turned around, when he turned his back to him. And it wasn't, he said it was different to him lowering his voice or being somewhere else in the room, because he could still pinpoint where he was coming from, but he could tell the voice has just gone down a little bit because he turned away. But the localization was still the same. He could still tell where he was, but when he turned away, when he was facing him, which is a fairly subtle difference for most people, I would suggest.
But if you haven't got that
again, that's an
visual
individual.
clue as well, having some of this extra auditory information is maybe something that you get to make use of, you know, as you adapt to it. So it'd be really interesting to see. What we need to think about a little bit, Molly, is we can make the hearing aids make all these decisions themselves, and I would advocate that's a good starting point to make it fully automatic. So the hearing aid will opt into this spatial sense program when you're in the right environment for it, and be in a noise reduction setting when it feels it's the right, and it's making those algorithms. I think that's probably a good starting point for us, so you get to experience all the different ways the hearing aid can work. But I would ask you to make some notes or some, you know, mental notes to yourself about environments where it's been helpful or where you felt it was counterintuitive, the self-adjustment that the hearing aid was doing. You'll also be able to override all of that, remember, via the app within reason. So you'll be able to zoom the microphones in and out yourself and change those settings on each ear or both ears. So you will be able to override it. So I think we're going to be probably giving you a lot of variety at this stage, but it's probably better I'm kind of thinking you're an everything kind of girl, rather than, I don't think we need to give you things in bite-sized portions. I think you kind of give me all the information, give me all the options, and I'll work out what I like.
Yeah.
Am I right?
I tend to just strategize through my way through things anyway. So yeah.
I've definitely picked that up today. 150%. I think I need a morning phone call from you every day to set me up for the day. This is your plan for today. Okay, so should we try turning the level up of the instruments just out of interest to see what that impact?
Okay.
Okay, I've just turned them up there by a couple of dB.
Okay.
Has that made a difference?
Yeah.
I think you like that. I think
do.
your eyes sort of went, yeah. It's, with experienced hearing aid users like you, a couple of dB it can just bring everything into focus a little bit more, can't it?
Yeah, it does.
The old tap the table test.
It's almost like a bit of an insecurity. It's like making sure I can still, it's still there. It's certainly going to take me a while to.
We could easily turn them off to see if you notice the difference.
I've just turned those up a little bit. I'm just going to get 1 more dB and see if that makes any further change. And then I'm going to send Graham back round the room. We just want to make sure that we still get that same effect.
Okay.
Okay, that's just a further 1 dB change.
Okay.
Okay. Should we ask Graham to will you do what you did before,
She
Graham?
wasn't kidding, was she? I thought she was joking.
Just walk around and let's make sure we haven't changed anything in terms of that.
Oh, I could do with losing a couple of pounds, is that what you're saying? Thank you very much.
Go on.
Yeah, it's best start running round.
Yeah. So I try not to compete with the birds outside, but again, I'm just prattling on. Please believe me when I say I don't like the sound of my own voice. This is just
Have you ever
to
met
give
a
you
man
something to
who
listen
doesn't?
to as I walk around. See, I can't remember the last time I finished a full sentence. Again, I'm strolling around backwards and forwards, trying not to give you too many clues, but just keeping the conversation at the same level. A little bit nearer, a little bit further away, but trying my best to walk around you as well to see how easily you can pick up where my voice is coming from. How easy was that to tell roughly where I was in the room? Could you almost follow me around the room with the hearing?
Yeah,
Excellent.
You went arm and that.
Yeah, you did. I mean, you can
didn't
tell so much sometimes when you've been fitting aids for a few years just by facial expressions.
Definitely.
When I mentioned your eyes following me around the room, I'm aware of the visual impairment, so I meant that most respectfully.
Yeah.
But that emphasised the fact that you were tracking where I was before. So I did understand that you couldn't see me. So
Very often people think you're following things with your eyes, but you're changing. If you watch, you're changing the auditory information as well by moving the head. So it makes perfect sense to track, even if you're not seeing something, where somebody is in space, because it's giving you a different set of auditory information as well.
But you scan, don't you? So that is, the head does move where she scans with that small window of vision.
that's
Yeah.
so natural to
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
It's hard work, isn't it, Mom?
I know, we must be tiring you out now, I'm conscious of that. So you think the level and the settings we've got the hearing aid at the moment, when I'm trying to be as clear as possible to say this is just a starting point in time, and I know that might be a bit frustrating for you that I'm saying I'm going to need to see you again, but there is so much potential within these systems that I just want to make sure that you get the most from it, and it's not going to be that switch on. It's far more work than that, but I think I'm really hopeful that you'll get to a point with these that it's well worth it. And you can observe big changes over time, above and beyond what you've been wearing before. And hopefully, do you know what, Molly, if you came back in 6 months and said, I'm not as tired, at the end of the day, I would be so chuffed. Because you're functioning at such a high level. Anyway, do you know what I mean? I would just love it if you came back and said, actually, I'm listening to music in the evening a bit more because I'm not as... switch me off, I need to break from everything. Sometimes those sorts of outcomes are, from a clinical point of view, the really reassuring bits of information, really.
Kel, it's only been a very short while that you've had them in, but physically, how are they feeling now?
They feel okay. I mean, there was a slight, I feel like a slight itch in my inner ear here, and I'm like, don't really want to touch anything.
From experience, you tend to notice with this type of fitting, you become accustomed to that quite quickly. But if you don't, if it's not quite perfect next time you see Heather, I'm certain we can find a fitting that's going to be even more comfortable for you.
Sure.
But it's not uncomfortable.
No, it's not
It's
uncomfortable.
just a little bit different to what you're used to. Okay.
This side is like fine. It literally feels like I've got the tiniest little itch. Just needs to touch.
Incidentally, you won't do any damage if you do feel you just need to touch your ear.
Sure.
You're not. They're for the sizing, they're surprisingly robust. So don't worry about that.
Sure.
Don't be frightened of touching them or touching your ear.
Okay.
That's fine, especially until you become accustomed to them.
Sure.
And when you put them in yourself, and this sounds ridiculous, but because you can feel where something is, you're a little bit firmer. When an audiologist is fitting something for you, we want to be very delicate with you and all, but when you put something in yourself, you can, as Graham said, you can give it that firm little, and you'll feel it sort of sit in a position. You've got quite bendy ear canals. I don't know if you've been told that before. You've got quite an acute bend in your ear canal. That's it, everybody's different. Mine is straight and there's nothing in between now.
There's nothing normal about you, is
No,
there,
there
Mol?
isn't. I've just got used to it.
No, it's not. That's the wrong word. You're unique.
Who wants to be normal?
What
What
is
even
normal?
is that?
Yeah, exactly.
It's nice to be a bit different.
Different. So you can have a little play around with that, as I say. And but there's a couple of things that would be red flags. If it's uncomfortable and hurting your ears, go back to your old hearing aids, give me a ring straight away, and I'll arrange. Normally there's either myself, Graham or Kaz, one of us audiologists will be here, and we can have a look in your ears and change the domes and tips at any point and play around with that. Or if your ears got itchy and red. So they're all hypoallergenic materials, but those would be the things to just go, actually, that's not a persevere with.
No.
That's I'll go back to my old ones and get Heather or Graham or somebody to have a look.
Birds?
Yeah.
You hear the bird sound?
Do you know what's helped you to identify that they are the birds? It's because where they are in space. I can't tell you how important some of that contextual information is to help you work out what the sound is. Because there's so many little things that our brain's doing every 5 seconds that if it was behind you, that sound, you'd say, somebody playing a sound, or is that a phone, or is that something else? But because you know it's there, the window's open, you feel the breeze.
That's so weird.
See, that's what makes
it sound.
Is that nice?
Does it sound different?
It's weird because I have heard birds before, but I've literally been outside where the birds are to hear them. I've never been indoors.
The windows are
Hearing
open. The windows are open, and we have got some pretty monstrous wildlife around here, but that is still made me go goosebumps. That's pretty good, because your high frequency hearing isn't brilliant.
No.
Let's try and make it as sparky as possible. It's not the best.
It took a while to round them up and park them outside the window, though. That's not easy.
Okay. All right, I'm going to save those settings into the hearing aids now, and then I'm going to go and see if we've woken China, to see that, because where we are at the moment, we're not actually able to pair up to.
Slide up from the bottom of the screen.
Airplay.
Yeah, click on AirPlay and choose your hearing aids. And now we can't hear that, but that's going straight to your aids, straight into your ears.
Ah.
So your own personal wireless headphones. and you can chop and change anytime you like.
Ah,
So that's one way of doing it.
yeah.
When you get pretty slick at it, a quicker way, if you can triple click.
Wow.
Okay?
That's really cool.
And you can decide to come off the hearing aids or whatever your preference is. But doing it the other way, if you slide up, it's very visual as well, and you can see. So if we put that back onto the phone.
That is so nice.